Looking for a car you can count on? At AutoMasters, we offer a hand-picked selection of used and certified pre-owned vehicles priced right and ready to drive. With easy financing and expert service, AutoMasters is your trusted dealership from test drive to keys in hand. AutoMasters, driven by trust, powered by service. Visit our website at automasters06.com or stop by today. And oh yeah, tell them Sonia sent you.
She say, sports. She say, sports. She say, sports. She say, sports.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Sonia and welcome back to She Say Sports. Please welcome Leadership Strategist for Athletic Departments and Sport Organizations, publisher of Significance in Athletics and Sports, and host of her podcast, A Chat in the Garden with Monique A.J. Smith. Please welcome Monique A.J. Smith. What's up, Monique?
How are you?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for joining me today.
I'm really glad to be here. I love your show.
Thank you. And I was just telling you, I don't know how I ran across a chat in the garden. I have no clue, but I'm so glad I did. It is a breath of fresh air. It's amazing seeing so many women doing things in sport and not just playing sport, but on the administrative side or the management side. It's humbling to see so many women and so many sisters. I love it. I love it. I love it. So thank you for what you're doing. You're doing a great you're advancing women in your own way. And I appreciate you. I so appreciate you. Let's go ahead and get started because we'll just start because I'm excited to have you on the show today. So Monique, I always ask athletes this question because I'm curious as how it started for them. And I don't know if you were an athlete, but how did and neither was I. I was a daddy's girl. I wanted to be like her. And that was it. I started the first adult kickball league in Jackson, Mississippi, 2012. And so that's the only sport I've ever played is kickball. But I'm 5'9". I've never played basketball, none of that. I just love sports. So how did your love for sport begin?
Well, I like to say that it started out in the 8th grade. I was a scorekeeper.
Okay.
But the fact that you mentioned your father, I have to go back to that. My father was assistant principal at Waverly Junior High School in Waverly, Virginia. And one of his duties was to be there for all sporting events. So that's all I remember. It's interesting because I see people in the community, and I remember when they played junior high basketball and junior, not even high school, junior high football, and just the whole atmosphere. And this is before I started school.
Wow.
Yeah, and look, I think it was before the 1st grade. They made me the mascot of Waverly Junior Wildcats. I was a little wildcat. And I was taking dancing. So I started dancing at 4. So I would say between 4 and 5, I was a little cheerleader. And it's funny.
Wow.
One of the ladies that was a cheerleader, so she's in the 8th grade, and I'm like 4 or 5. I saw her Christmas.
Really?
Yeah.
Did she remember you or vice versa?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to be funny. You cannot. I mean, not no. The town it's called Waverly. You waving.
Okay, so you waving, you gone.
Yeah. It's one stoplight town. So yeah.
Wow.
There are more people who know me than I know them because
Gotcha.
of me. But my father taught for 40.
Your father.
My mother taught for 30 some. My mother was a librarian. My father, he's from there. He taught there. He taught for 40 years. So And so that's where it all started. His co-worker, Coach Ralph Joyner, asked my father, could I keep scores? Because they were both colleagues. And my father said no at first. And then Coach Joyner said, no, I will protect her. She'll sit.
He
She
was
will
trying to
sit.
keep you from the guys.
You're
Okay.
right. Yeah, all the time. And yeah, I had to sit on the front row of the bus the entire time. And but that's how it all starts. And I always tell him, thank you for speaking up for me. And so I did it all during high school and college. When I went to college, though, I did not keep the scorebook at first. I was
Okay.
communications major. And my sophomore year in college, there was a notice the January of my sophomore year on the bulletin board looking for CIAA PR interns.
Wow.
And I was like, I can do that. I'm doing because Tony Massenberg, who played for Maryland, went to my high school. And I had to calculate all his stats for Lefty Giselle, who was recruiting him. So I kind of already, and I would practice watching a game and trying to write it and read the progress index in Petersburg. So I've always been, how can we tell this story? I'm always about
Gotcha.
human interest stories. That's me.
So wow, that's amazing. Well, you know what? I feel good because most people always play sport, but I feel good now. So I have a fellow
Yeah.
non-sporter here.
Yeah,
So,
and I want to be Jane Candy too, but I want to do it for basketball. I didn't want to do it for football.
oh yeah, I wanted to do it for football too.
No. I want to do it
Oh,
for
you wanted to
basketball.
do it for basketball, yeah.
Right.
I wanted to do football, but I love basketball. I've kind of basketball is like, you know how you've been in a relationship for so long and it was so great at the beginning, but because it's not like how it used to be. And I'm
Oh
wanting it
yeah.
to get back to those glory days of, I know it'll never be like Michael Jordan anymore. I hate it, but I want them to play some real basketball. Stop shooting all the
I
three
get ready to
points.
say it's all
I'm
this.
over it. I'm so over it. But I will say this NBA playoffs have been very exciting, and I'm so happy for the Knicks. And I'm a Bulls fan. I hate the Knicks, but I'm just like, y'all been out of the game since like I think 1999, 98, 99. So I'm happy for them. I'm curious to see how far this go. I think it's gonna be the Knicks in Oklahoma. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, let me tell you another fun fact. So
Hmm.
my husband and I, we went to college together.
Okay.
And my junior year, I was working, interning at the local TV station.
Hmm.
And I was picked to work the national championship. Hampton was hosting Division II track and field national championship. So they
Okay.
put me in a cottage. So my husband was working the ministers conference. So we on campus all by ourselves basically.
Hmm.
And we're watching the NBA playoffs. He comes to my cottage. Okay. We in the foyer. I bring my TV out.
So y'all were dating. Y'all were already dating.
We weren't dating,
But
but we liked each other.
y'all
Okay.
liked each other. Okay, got
So
you.
we both like because again, he knew me as a sports information student.
Right.
Intern.
Okay.
Okay. So I had just met him like I want to say March. So now we're in May. And we're like, when nobody else is here, you're watching the game. He was in a whole dorm by himself. And I was
Hmm.
like, well, just come, over here. And I brought my TV. Here's the funny thing. So it was Detroit Pistons and the Lakers.
Hmm.
Now, my husband and I have been together for 20 years now. We married other people and then we got back together.
I love it. So
So,
wait
but
a minute
here's,
before you, because I'm doing the timeline. I want to see when
oh yeah,
what year was this game? Do you remember?
this is 1989.
Okay, that's what
Talking
I
about
was said.
89.
Well, you
So,
said I was saying. Okay, go ahead.
so Rick Mahorn played for Detroit. He's a
Hmm.
Hamptonian. I'm going for Hamptonian. My husband's been a Laker forever. But listen, he did not want me to know how ticked off he was. Now let that happen today. Let that happen today. He is not going to change his mindset for any team. But he said, I don't know how I held myself together. Because I'm telling you, this man
Like you,
is,
that's why.
I know, it's hilarious. So when we were talking about the playoffs, I said, guess what? I think this is our anniversary weekend of watching the game together.
That is so cute. I
36
love it.
years ago.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah.
I was dating a guy at Jackson State at the time, and we were watching. I met him in his lobby at his dorm, and we watched. That's why I wanted to know what year that was, and it was '89.
Wow.
That was my freshman
Girl,
year.
we got some parallels, don't we?
I know. Yeah, so we were watching it, absolutely. So, Monique, you have over 30 years experience as an athletic administrator and you have worn many, many hats in the sports arena. One of those hats is you're an adjunct professor at your alma mater, Hampton University. So, you teach sports management classes. How does it feel to be able to pour into our future sport leaders? How does it feel?
It is pure joy.
Mm,
It is pure joy. I just celebrated my 35th class reunion,
wow.
and they were trying to collect monies,
Mhm.
and I said, "Oh no, I give back. I've been giving back for 8 years.
Yeah.
That's my good because when I see them cross the stage and then go get that job, I mean, I've got young ladies. I got guys too, but I just want to talk about the
Mhm.
young ladies. Young lady, you talking about basketball, she's got 2 rings with the Golden State Warriors as a communications person. Now she
I
works for
love that.
another
I
young
love
lady got a ring with the Dodgers this past year.
And these were your students.
Yes, ma'am.
I
Women,
love it.
women, okay?
Love
I
it.
got another young lady who is facilities at Adelphi.
Oh
And
my
then
God.
another young lady, she was with the Washington National. She did community relations, and now she's with Atlanta. I don't want to say the D League team with the Hawks, you know.
Mm-hmm. I
And
know
so
that.
I'm just really very, very proud of them. So yeah, one young lady even worked for the CIAA in compliance for years.
Mhm.
And so it's just really nice to be able to see some. And they tell me all the time, when you taught us so and so, I was like, yeah, I remember that. When they actually experienced it. But
Right.
if you want to affect change, you got to plant the seed with people.
You gotta plant
You
the
don't know
seed.
what's going to take root with them, but it's
Mm-hmm.
better to multiply yourself and your thoughts than to try to keep beating your head up against the wall. And that's basically, I mean, when you are like one of the first, you
Mm-hmm.
know that you can't change the world except by your actions. People want to
That's right.
duplicate you. But when you go and try to teach and say, now you can't, like, again, we talked about athletics earlier, the changing of the guard, if you will. I don't tell them what to think. I just want to make critical thinking.
Got you. And that's key. That's key.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So you mentioned planting seeds, and your motto is planting seeds of empowerment to lead others to greatness. What does that mean to you, and how does it relate to the young minds that you teach?
Well, that's been my motto ever since 2003, to be honest.
Okay.
Um, because when I did, I was associate commissioner for the CIAA. And
Mm-hmm.
there were women who were also senior women's administrators on college campuses.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to empower them,
Right.
because they were getting a little frustrated. And even today, I say, again, be strategic. Stop hitting your head up against the wall. Be strategic. Find out who else thinks like you. All right.
Right.
And then it may not be you carrying the message, or it could be a resource you can give to somebody. Because I'm telling you, if you want to change somebody's thought process, you give them the book that you read. So
Mhm.
therefore, it's not you influencing them in their mind. They go like, oh,
Right.
they take ownership of what they have learned.
I love that.
So that's the same way of teaching. You follow me? I mean, there may be new developments, and I'll say, well, have you, I love my class, my psychosociology of sport. And
Mhm.
I'll say, well, let's just talk about, when did you know um, that you were the man? When did you know that? Because there's something about, we train our girls and our boys differently.
Mhm. You're right.
Yeah, and so that happens, and it transforms into the NIL. A guy
Mhm.
gonna go out here and try it. He's not gonna feel embarrassed. A girl
Right.
is kind of like, they want to be asked. It's like, okay, I'm at the dance, but I'm waiting for you to ask me to come on the dance floor. And that's
Mhm.
basically, unless somebody tells the young lady with confidence, you can do this, and constantly,
Mhm.
and they need that constant reinforcement. So we were having that conversation about, when did you know to be fearless, basically. And well, you're the man of the house. Okay. That masculinity part comes in.
Yeah.
And then if you're playing ball, oh, suck that up. Ain't no crying here. But then you don't know what to do with your emotions.
You don't know what? Yep. That's
Okay.
true.
Young lady, totally different. Okay,
Mhm.
totally different. And I just said, I just want you to, I didn't say how you were raised was wrong. I just want you to examine, when did you know, when the first time? And then think about when that happened to right now, and the decisions you made because that was planted. And it
Interesting.
makes them, yeah, again, it makes you kind of think, okay, maybe I want to course correct that now, or,
Mhm.
because that was important then, but the world has changed now. I have other opportunities. I don't have to do it
Mhm.
that way. So those are the kind of things. And I just really want to increase the pipeline. I really want to increase the pipeline. In order to do that, I've got to attack this lack of confidence. Got to.
Wow. And you know what? I never looked at it as a lack of confidence. Me being from the South, I'm from Mississippi, come from a very traditional home. We were, I was taught I don't chase guys. I don't ask them out. I would never ask them to dance. So, I take when I got to Jackson State, if it was a song, I was like, come on, So it depends.
That's right.
So, it
I'm
depends.
gonna dance by myself. You come on if you
Right,
want.
right, exactly. And so, it was just different. So you're right. You don't see it as insecurity, but in a sense it is, because we're taught, most young ladies are taught, don't do that. Where
Be smart.
guys,
Be
they
smart.
yeah, kind of shrink you.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. And
Such
so
a thing.
it's hard to unlearn that. You follow me?
It really
Be
is.
ladylike. Don't be loud. You know what I mean? All of that. Now, I will say the difference I had was that my mother was 8 years younger than my father.
Okay.
And so I had conflicting situations, but
Mm,
I learned how to be me. Like I can say pretty clearly, I've never given in to peer pressure. I've always
me
done
either,
my
not
own thing, you know. And so
I'm
by being the only girl doing this, and that didn't bother me. Now I will say that I'm 5'8.5".
Mhm.
My two best friends are tall, but no one took the time to want to teach us how to play ball. There was this stigma, you
Mhm.
know, and that's another thing. I was like, I want girls to be student athletes if they want to, and that's when we brought bowling to the
Mhm.
CIAA, my mindset was, how many other young ladies who didn't even know they could be a student athlete can be a student athlete now?
Wow. Because you don't usually see women. You categorize bowling with men basically. So you're right.
Well, I mean, even just to make it a collegiate sport. See,
Yeah,
it
this
started out
yeah,
as women first,
absolutely. Right, right.
and I mean on the collegiate side. And to
Mhm.
me, it was like, let me increase the possibilities for them, because again, I mean,
Mhm.
nothing against cheerleading, but I was a mascot at 4 or 5. After that, I never touched it. I said, if I'm going to support it, I'm going to use my brain. I'm not going to
Mhm.
sit here and move. If I'm gonna move, it's gonna be move because I just want to move. You know what I mean? But I've really been very intentional,
Mm-hmm.
because even when I kept the scores, I would go to practice, I would study. Okay, you made the basket when you did this. And this
Mm-hmm.
is the 8th grade. Okay. There was no such thing as analytics when I was in school.
Correct.
But I can keep all stats. Well, not now. Believe me, I tried. The mind is gone. But I could
Mm-hmm.
do softball, baseball, um, volleyball. I was one of the very first ones to do computerized volleyball stats in
Wow.
the 90s. Okay. And so I ended up my first job was sports information director at
Mm-hmm.
St. Paul's College. I was there for 8 years. And so by I want to say the 5th year, maybe the 6th year, I had been through 5 different ADs. And then I was named interim AD at 28 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. So I
What was
got
it
some.
like? Yeah, what was it like for you? What what one you didn't shrink away from the challenge, of course.
Well, let's say like this. I kind of did.
Mm.
I kind of did. I was really contemplating divorce because I got married when I went to St.
Okay. So you had some stuff going on personal.
But I was at the Olympics when I got the call from the president. He tracked me down and said, "Did you know so and so was leaving?" I said, "No, sir." Didn't even tell him I was thinking about leaving. I said, "Oops, and this ain't the time to tell that." And he was like, "Well, I want you to take over the program. I want look, but he did say, I want to protect you by making you interim." And I was like,
Hmm.
I said, "Let me think about it." So that night in Atlanta, 1996, the bomb went off.
Wow. So it
Exactly
was that night. Okay.
that night. And I said, life is short. I shall take this position, and the parts that I am uncertain of, I will learn on the job. The confidence it's like the bomb just blew the confidence into me. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? It was
Yeah.
like, life is short. You don't have to do this perfectly. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I remained in that position for 2 years until I did end up leaving. The president was very upset with me. And I was like,
Wow.
it's not about you, sir. I got to do this for me. And so it was heartbreaking for me because, I was one of the first. I mean, now take this out. The lady that hired me straight out of college, Jeanette A. Lee, was the very first woman athletic director of the CIAA. So I was blessed to
Hmm.
be able to watch for at least a year. And then unfortunately, she was diagnosed with cancer and passed away, which is
Hmm.
why we went through so much. Um,
Right.
but I learned because we didn't have. I had to learn financial aid. I had to learn how to go across campus and make
Wow.
sure that business office stuff was straight. I had to go to hearings and make sure the kid didn't kicked out of school. All of those things I was younger than 28 years old. So when a person sees that you're going to do, this is why I can say what I say about this new. If you're an advocate, people are going to be able to recognize you for an advocate and be a leader. And
Right.
that's what happened for me. I was an advocate. One of those advocate students is now the athletic director at Dillard University, Dr. Linda Bell.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
And
That's
it's
well,
funny.
go
Yeah.
ahead. Well,
Well,
I
I
was
was
just going to say, everything that you went to at that time, age 28, was preparing you for what you're doing now.
yes.
That's all it
No,
was.
no doubt, no doubt. Because when I remember talking, Dr. Linda Bell will call me any and every time.
Mhm.
And she was talking about something. She says, and I want to give our student athletes the best experience. Because it was funny, she forgot she was talking to me. She said, because when I was in school, that's what was done for me. And I was like, oh, okay, thank you. But that's the part about planting the seed. You follow me? And then it grows, and then those droppings come, and then another garden is built, another garden is built. You just don't. You just when you in it, you just doing,
You
and
just
you're
do.
not really thinking about the legacy you're building. But when I went into business, then I was like, I want to duplicate what I did at St. Paul's, what I did for the CIAA, I can do it, and I've been able to do it for the last 11 years.
Planting seeds of empowerment. I love it. I love it. So, Monique, you posed this question on um, social media this weekend, and I was like, I'm gonna ask her that on the show. And I want to know your thoughts on this because it's very thoughtful and a timely question, especially given the rapidly changing landscape of collegiate athletics in areas like NIL, athlete compensation, conference realignments, and increasing commercialization. How how do we move forward in this new collegiate athletic space and not get hit in the head?
Well, thank you for that question.
You're welcome.
I asked that question because I keep hearing semblance of getting hit in the head.
Mm-hmm.
And what it is that, number one, you got to do some unlearning.
Yeah.
And that's me too, because we have been taught that getting an athletic scholarship is an honor,
Mm-hmm.
and you should relish it. You should be like so grateful that your talents have earned this for you.
Right.
Okay. All right. So that being said, then things start evolving where the scholarship is used to manipulate your actions. And I have to be honest, as an athletic administrator, I did it too. Okay. We don't know that we are doing something wrong if this is what you're seeing. I mean, I remember telling the basketball players, hey, if you don't play this softball, I'm taking your money over here for basketball. Didn't really realize that was illegal. You can't do that.
Wow.
I didn't look, I told them all because I needed to be able to fill the team.
Yep.
So the process was you got to pick two sports to get this money that I got for you. This is in the early 90s, okay? Early
Right.
90s, okay? And so, but as you grow and you learn more, you're like, that is not right. And that's the unlearning. What you and how you coach, you can't coach the way you would coach. And I'm saying you can't administrate the way you can administrate now. I mean,
Right.
and so now you got to decide. It's a mindset, unlearning and mindset and
Mm-hmm.
perspective. Can you look at this as student athlete rights, student athlete movement? Okay,
Mm.
because it's because social media, the pandemic, all of that clashes. And
Mm-hmm.
now, number one, the kid knows I got an audience. Sponsors knows I can go and reach in my goals by dealing with the student directly.
Yep.
That's number one. Number two, oh no, the kids were already here. You better care about me and not just what I can do for you on the points and win loss.
Right.
They were already there because I do workshops for athletic departments, and I've
Mm-hmm.
been asked, how to train the coach to deal with the new athlete. And I
Mm-hmm.
created a game called the newly committed, and it was really like, how do you know your athletes? How they were raised. Were they raised by the grandmother, or what? Or what's their favorite team? Anything. Kids want to know that you know about them. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and so it was fun because you can really see what coach really gets the kids. And guess
Mm-hmm.
what? Those coaches, the coaches that win. This is really before the transfer portal really kind of hit hard. Because
Mm-hmm.
now it's even more, I might love you, coach, but I gotta go make this money.
Yep.
And so therefore, that whole concept goes to a different level.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if they're gonna go do that, whether it be with you or somebody else, how can you teach them how to become an advocate? Teach them how to go see what the best deal is. Teach them. And then I mean, how to be honest, this is what we were just talking about before.
Mm-hmm.
There are predators out here in the
Yep,
entrepreneur world,
that's true.
and they will try to tell you what they got is the best thing. And then if something don't work out, they leave you high and dry. And then you're just like, where do I go? What do I do?
Right.
And so this is what I'm saying. How do we not get it hit up in the head? We have to change our mindset. We have to unlearn the way we were taught to think about, I'm giving this kid an opportunity. They should be beholden to me. We can't be like,
We can't do that anymore.
it's not. Okay. And then number two, you really got to realize you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. When you tell kids, I want you to go vote, you got a voice. And then when you say you got a voice, and I want you to go vote, and all these things about your community and what you got to do, then when it comes, look back at them and like, well, you're not even considering what my needs are.
Mm.
See, my needs are I need to prepare for my family now. Now, whether we agree or not that a whole family is relying on a teenager, we gotta just pause that because this is a student athlete welfare issue. Because the third thing is mental health.
Yep.
Okay,
And that
if
is
you're
so
here for the
important.
welfare of the student, then you will become an advocate. And it's so interesting because that I put that out there to see who I could trigger because I invited them to a webinar that I'm creating
Mm-hmm.
talking about the student movement. All right, and comparing the SNCC movement to the student athlete movement of today. And we're studying Ella Baker because Ella Baker, even though she worked with the NAACP, she was grassroots. She
Mm-hmm.
developed leaders, the student leaders in 1960. And that's how we need to be. We need to be able to educate ourselves on how to create leaders that are advocates for themselves. Not to tell them it's right or wrong, but look,
Right.
these are things you need to consider. Just very simple. One of the young ladies is Cassandra Ramsey. I
Mm-hmm.
taught sports law last fall. I'll be teaching again this fall. And I had her to create a checklist for NIL.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So a checklist for a contract so that you can be able to see this contract is good or not. And that's a free instrument that she has. You see? And that was the ecosystem I had. She was in my magazine, and I was like, okay, look, you need to be give a person a taste of what you can do and help them with.
Right.
And so since then, I think it's every Sunday, every Saturday, she gives an update on
Mm-hmm.
things. So the last thing you need to do is continue to educate yourself so that you can be the education will go with the unlearning.
Right.
Because let's just be honest, it is a shifting of power going on.
Mm-hmm. It
And
really
that's
is.
and it's the same way with the civil rights movement. That's why it was so much bulking, because it was shifting of power. And the,
Right.
and the one thing I thought Ella Baker was very interesting because I saw a movie with um, Barrett Rustin, who was with the March on Washington. And there
Mm-hmm.
was a scene with the Ella Baker and MLK. And she was arguing with MLK. She was saying that your methods are, I can't say effective, but it wasn't what she was used to. She was
Right.
grassroots, going into communities, being amongst them, find out what their concerns, the concern in Detroit or maybe a different concern in Mississippi. So if
Right.
you centralize this grassroots, and she calls it radical democracy, okay?
Mm.
And so we're learning about that and how can we do that on our campuses to be that individual that can be able to say, not telling you what to think, but these are the tools. And just look at how they did it. And they last for 10 years, the SNCC did. And it happened on a college campus in Shaw. And they did the Freedom Riders. They did, see, her issue was the MLK, they were using the youth to get the attention of the nation.
Mhm.
Okay, but if you're going to use the youth, why not instruct the youth how to become self-efficacy?
Yeah.
You see, you can't
Mhm.
use the kids, but now not develop the kids. And so that's what the NIL is. It's like, okay, you had us, we won games for you, and now we want to take back ownership. Well, you got to teach them how to take back ownership and not just do what they see somebody doing on the ground.
Mhm.
I tell my kids all the time, you can go make money today. You go back to your high school and you tell them to have a camp in your name, and your high school coach runs it. Okay, you're a brand all by yourself.
You're
But you
right.
waiting, but you waiting for one to pop into your lap. You waiting for
Mhm.
an agent to go find it. I just told you what to do. Because again, people from your hometown are going to do for you.
Yep. That's
So
true.
that's my answer. How do you not get hit upside the head? You go ahead and change your mindset about the whole process.
I love it. I love it. So, how can we preserve the educational mission of college sports amid increasing commercialization?
Answer to me again.
How can we preserve the educational mission of college sports amid increasing commercialization?
Well, here's the thing. That's a norm. That's a norm. Let's just
Mhm.
be honest. It's a norm that we experienced in the 90s. That let's just be honest. In 2025,
Mhm.
education happens. We're doing educational something right now.
Yeah.
All right. You can go get all these certificates from LinkedIn as you want. Get any kind of certification. So education has changed.
And it's really changing because of this NIL deal because someone's on the show a few months ago and they work at Texas Longhorn. They're over there. They work in the educational side, the tutoring and for the athletes. And she was like, at some point, it's gonna get to a point where we probably won't even have it anymore, education anymore.
You're right. I mean, no, I can't say that because I'm a nerd. I just told you, I just
Oh,
get
I'm talking
educated.
about, but just for athletes because
Mm-hmm.
because of this NIL, because of the NIL deals.
Well, this is the thing. Okay, you do know that there are more Division 3 schools than there are Division 1.
True.
There are more
That is true.
Division 2 schools than there are Division 1.
Yeah. Right.
So there are going to be people who seek education because they do have understanding that it's going to be life after all of this.
True.
And so they're going for the long game and not the short game. And so, you know, there are going to be uh, opportunities. Again, the masses. We're
Mhm.
talking about the few and the elite, you know. And look, you do know that what's a Shaq? Shaq is doctor. He has
Yes, he
his
is.
PhD. He's from,
He's
he's
very smart.
right. But I'm just saying, he went out and started on his own. Those who want will get. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And they will be successful with that. And hopefully, again, somebody like me with human interest stories, if
Hmm.
you tell that and how this works,
Right.
because a Magic is an entrepreneur and he tells the story of how he bought his businesses and his thought process with Starbucks. Those are the things, again, educate to influence, you know, and,
Hmm.
he did not get his money when he was playing for Michigan. He only
Right.
stayed there for 1 year, but he had some good advisors in his ear. And
Yes, he
that's kind
did.
of what you want.
Yes, he did. You're right.
Yeah.
So, what does a healthy collegiate athletic ecosystem look like 10 years from now?
I think I kind of alluded to that. What if we constantly just had the entrepreneur athlete
I like
share,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
to share the real deal of how this works.
Hmm.
And I just mentioned two, you know, um, but I'm sure there's some local folks who own a dealership or own
Right.
a restaurant, or I do know there was a CIAA alum in Texas. And when I worked for the CIAA, we had met. I think we had just put him in the Hall of Fame or something. And he either does software or something of that nature. He was a football person. But the thing is, concentrating on that piece, because that's the long game. You want, I mean, here's the thing. If you don't do this right, Uncle Sam gonna take all that you go get. It's like gambling. You know, you make all that money, they're gonna get their money straight up because you didn't say defer my payments.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So I like what you just said. Education may not be gone, but it'll change.
Mm-hmm.
It'll fit what's going. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a
Yeah, I
good.
mean, it's exciting to me because again, I'm a nerd. Like I did not. I got the free audiobook about Miss Ella Baker. It was just a little piece
I'm gonna
about
have to go
SNP.
get it myself.
And I was like, okay, Lord, I hear what you're saying. Because I have been struggling. I'm going like, I don't know how to think differently about this new. For 35 years, I'm like, no, that's a violation. No, that's a
Right.
violation. And like I taught again this law class. I said something was a violation in January. By March, it wasn't.
It's changing so like quickly.
Yeah, but here's the other point. When I'm changing or planting seeds with the new generation, I said, but guess what? A young person like you is going to be the answer how this is going to work. So
Yeah.
just because you are young in the workforce, diversity of mind is what they're looking for. They're looking for rookie smarts, looking for people who can go and make an impact right now. So I don't want you to think, okay, I got to be small and be wait to be called on. I want you to be able to speak intelligently about what you think needs to happen. And somebody's going to take your thought, because just because you have been there 40 years does not mean that person for 40 years can be able to take us to the next.
That's true. That is true. I love that. So we're gonna move. We're gonna change subjects. You know, you are a publisher of your magazine, Significance in Athletics and Sports, which showcases the specialized knowledge of Black women in sports management careers. Tell us how you came about with publishing a magazine, Monique.
Well, it again is becoming having a product that you know is going to help people get where they want to be. So
Right.
many people wanted to be a consultant and how do I get speaking engagements. And so I was trying to do like a speakers bureau, but they weren't catching on to that because I was saying people want to know your specialized knowledge. They want to know how did you do.
Right.
You know, but you got to be able to package it in a way that you can deliver it.
Mm-hmm.
So as I'm teaching them how to go about doing this, I'm like, okay, let me make a magazine because I was in an anthology, right? And I was like, oh, this is not hard. And then I belonged to the Boss Network, and they kept asking me to write these articles. I was like, well, this isn't hard. 500 words, I can knock this out. And I said, but I know that there's some specialized knowledges out here that can be able to remember a person by. So I've been a consultant since 2005. Wow. No, I take that back. 2003. 2003. And it's my specialty was Title IX education. So people kept calling me, oh, yeah, get Monique, get Monique. And I was telling people, if you want to be a speaker, if you want to do presentations, you got to get your name out there for at least one thing. Not that you are AD, but like, you know how to pick the best coaches, or you know how to raise the money. And this is why I would say you need to be able to put a framework in the article, because the articles are not about how they became who they are. The article is about what have you contributed to the marketplace. And it works. I had one young lady that she was a volleyball coach, but then they put her in esports, or it's called academic something, something, something. But esports is under that. And so I was working with her to tell her, oh, it's not, she was upset that she wasn't in sports. I said, girl, you can coach here, you can coach this. It's all the same thing. And so I built her confidence up. She wrote her article, and she has been getting speaking engagements ever since.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
And
amazing. So, go ahead, Monique. Finish
okay,
your
well,
thought.
speaking engagements and jobs. So same thing works for jobs. If you're trying to switch jobs, you want people to know who you are. I had another young lady, I
Mhm.
call her the Swift athletic knife. Okay. And the AD had interviewed her and was trying to offer her the job, but she gave the article to the president to convince him to let her go ahead and hire her.
Wow. That says a lot. So, so my next question is perfect for what you just said. Why was it important to showcase Black women in your magazine?
Well, because I've been one for
All your life.
57. Yeah. And I have been in circles. I've served on a lot of NCAA committees, a lot of them. And one of them I was representing the commissioner on. So there were other commissioners, and the NCAA would give diversity money, right?
Hmm.
Be one little category. And I remember sitting in on this meeting, and one of the commissioners said that they didn't use their money because they didn't see any diversity or something silly like that.
Hmm.
And I don't know if you can tell, but I'm a little outspoken. I don't need to be called on. And so I said, well, you didn't ask me. You didn't try harder. And they were
Right.
in New England. And I had just read a book about Blacks in New England. And so it was already implanted in me. And I was
Right.
like, okay, did you go to the churches? Did you go to the Black churches? Because
Hmm.
that tells me you didn't try. And everybody was like this. Okay, yes, I'm the only Black woman at the meeting at the time. I'm your colleague. Why didn't you ask me? So that
Right.
never left me. And I was like, no, they're never going to say they can't find them anymore. Even with the CIAA, the president would ask the commissioner, I'm looking for so and so. And I've always had resumes. Bam, bam. I would go to the Final Four and go to the Black coaches meeting. And I was like, I need your resume. Give it up.
Wow. Just give it up.
Yeah, and so again an advocate, a catalyst, and I was like, now when I became an entrepreneur in 2013, I was like, okay, I got some time. I'll just keep showing everybody who everybody is, and so
Mhm.
and you mentioned, you love it. It's also encouragement for you. I had a young lady tell me she had taken the ramp off for a minute to become a mom, right?
Mhm.
And she was depressed because she said, I don't know if I can get back in, so and so and so. She said, but the podcast gave her life.
Mm.
That lady is now director of athletics at a college in NEIA. But her first job straight out was assistant AD for a Power 5 institution. And she brought me in to do a staff retreat.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love what you're doing. So, Monique, is this an e-magazine or you subscribe to it? How,
Well, you can subscribe to it by
Mhm.
going to my store, seedsofempowermentstore.com. It comes out twice a year, once in March and once in August, and they're
Mhm.
all on Amazon.
I love it. So we'll revisit that at the end. I want you to tell the listeners and us how we can go back and get the magazines. I love that. So Monique, you also have a podcast and have had some truly amazing guests. It is called A Chat in the Garden with Monique A.J. Smith. You have more than 3.5 thousand members in your private Facebook group, which I am a part of. And y'all got to become a member. I ain't kidding. Oh, Monique, she I wake up sometimes to go use the bathroom. I said, she is putting up something now. She posting. So she posted all day, every day. So Monique, you've had your podcast for 11 years. Tell us what motivated you to start your own podcast.
Well, I had a publicist,
Hmm.
and she said, I have something for you. I want you to do this radio show. Now, I don't know if I said this before, but I majored in communications at Hampton University.
Okay, I did not know that. Okay.
Yes, I majored. And I took radio, television, newspaper, magazines, PR, all of it. Because it was
Mm-hmm.
mass media arts.
Right.
This was not radio. Okay. I was a little bit like, excuse me, this is not a radio show. And I knew how to do a rundown. I knew how to do all of that. I actually interned in BET when I was in college. So I was
Mm-hmm.
like, this is not that. And then the person she had me on the show, no, it was not professional enough for me. I said, girl, this ain't right. And so then she said, okay, she came back. She says, I got this guy. He's got a network and he is looking for a host. And since you did such a great job on the other one, I want to put you with him. I was like, okay. So I told him, I said, I want to have my own show.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be able to control who I have on it. And it's the same process I told you before. I want them to be able to find the people. So the
Mm-hmm.
Facebook came because of the podcast, because the guy in the network told me, his name is Clark Garrison. Unfortunately, he's no longer here with us.
Mm-hmm.
He said, you got to have a Facebook group. I said, what's that? Okay. I was like, huh? And then they made my logo. And they said, why you want to be a gardener? I said, because I want people to think about growth when they see me and hear my
Mm.
voice. Okay. I mean,
I
people
love it.
come to me for advice. I, again, if you come to me, don't think you're going to come out feeling all great because growth is uncomfortable.
Yeah,
And
very
so,
uncomfortable.
and that's what I want you to think. And so this is at St. Paul's College. My room was always packed with people asking me questions. And
Mhm.
the CIAA, my phone was always ringing. What do you think about this? Can I put your name as a reference? How should I say this? You follow me? And so
Mhm.
I was like, okay. And I said, the first months, I wanted to have only director of athletics, Black women. The man didn't know what I knew. He said, oh, that's going to be a short time. I said, you better watch. Exactly. Do you know he wouldn't let anybody else engineer the show because he didn't want to miss not one of them?
He wanted to watch them all.
Yes, he was like, this is amazing. And so then I embraced the word podcast. I said, I can deal with that. This is a podcast. This is not a radio show. This is a podcast. And
Mhm.
so when I embraced the word podcast, I was like, okay. And I mean, I'm usually booked. I kind of stopped, but I think I'm booked now to I think August.
Wow, I love it.
Yeah. I, I
So,
I love empowering people.
and so, well, I'm not gonna ask you that. I'm gonna ask you this. What is one of the most interesting guests you've had and why?
Oh girl, that's so unfair. That's 11 years.
I know, but I'm just about one of them that just stands out. So, I mean, like, it instantly comes to your head immediately.
Well, I will say this was one that told me I need to be doing some education because I do group coaching and I do
Mhm.
executive coaching.
Okay.
And this was a good friend, matter of fact. She had just become director of athletics. And it was the first season. And she talked about I want to say, she was real vulnerable in sharing about the competitiveness,
Mhm.
of other women, like literally seeing younger women and being fearful of your job.
Right.
And and there is a word for it. There's a theory. It's called the queen bee syndrome.
Mm.
Yeah, it really is. And so that was something that I experienced when I went from the CIAA to the MEAC, because I spent 2 years at Maryland Eastern Shore.
Mhm.
And I remember, again, I come from being an AD to coming over to a school where I'm the number two.
Right.
So I'm thinking, the women are going to be like, I'm trying to share some ideas. I got we're not going to follow the direction of a Division II conference. And I'm looking like, you ain't got no kind of leadership, no whatsoever. You just You know, I mean, like, you're not even at the president's table.
Right.
You know what I mean? We were just talking about a round robin to save costs for like a minor sport. And I was saying
Right.
that's what we do. We do a roundup, and but you know, eventually that did end up happening, right? You know, okay, all right.
But
But
she
I
said
also
something.
saw, here's the funny thing. I always say this. Sonia Steele is the
That's my
commissioner
girl.
of the MEAC, okay? So I was in the MEAC's women SWAs.
Mm-hmm.
And she came after me. I saw it in my own eyes. The queen bee syndrome thing was high and alive, okay? And I was like, oh no, you're not going to experience what I experienced, you know? And what I heard from the older women who had never sat in the ABC
Mm-hmm.
said, oh, they're just trying to water down this position, but get me.
Wow. Wow.
You see what I'm saying? So these are things I experienced. I said, oh
Mindset.
no, you're not
Mindset.
you're not going to experience that. And that's another thing, the reason why I help women out so much, because I know how it feels when somebody you think that's going to help you looks at you like, you better figure out how to get here on your own. You know, now I must admit, some of the younger folks, I'll be honest with you, I'm in business.
Mm-hmm.
So to have a consultation, I do have two prices. Okay. I do have pick my brain price. Okay. Which is only like $25. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the same as if you took me to dinner. Because again, you got to train them how, because again, this whole thing about getting education, executive coaching, is not
Mm-hmm.
new. It's the
Gotcha.
business world has been going on for years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just check out Napoleon Hill. Okay. But I got to be able to train you because again, if you think you can't waste people time,
Right.
you know, and so yes, but I am a bona fide business with this. And then I do strategy sessions and it's a little bit higher than that. But I'm saying it's me doing that is not to be the queen bee. It's telling you that I have intellectual property here
Right.
and you have to pay for it. You follow?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And I keep trying to tell folks, I mean, that's another reason for the magazine. Many of us don't have books. We don't have products. So
Mm-hmm.
somebody asks you to speak, but they tell you they can't pay you, you ask, can you buy the books or the magazine for everyone in
Mm.
attendance? And then you get paid.
I love it.
Or either you ask for a vendor space and you sell after you finish talking. And so you've just paid, because everybody in the magazine, they're paid to be in the magazine.
Mm-hmm.
And they pay to get me as expert marketing. We decide what's the one thing that you want to be known for, that we can be able to duplicate this. Because again, in this day
Right.
and time, you better have more than one income stream.
That's true. Now that's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree with that. Monique, last question.
Mm-hmm.
What is something you would tell an 18-year-old Monique regarding her journey?
The first thing that comes to my mind, and I said this in my chapter in this book that I was in, to start
Mm-hmm.
this whole um, mindset piece. It
Mm-hmm.
is spiral up the mountain instead of going straight up the mountain.
Mm.
So you can enjoy all four seasons.
I love that.
Because when you get up to the top, you're gonna go like, is this all it is? Because I'm telling you, that's what happened to me. I would look. I remember being invited to somebody's graduation. It was my cousin's child. I don't even remember my cousin getting married or having a child, let alone going to graduation. I stopped getting invitations.
Right.
I was always busy, you know. I mean, you think about sports
Mm-hmm.
and holidays. You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
It Thanksgiving, it was always a basketball tournament.
Yep.
You see, so I'm missing out on all of these family things. And so uh I've learned how to integrate, you know, and to be able to
Spiral up.
enjoy, yeah.
Spiral up.
So they're going straight up. Because I did. I mean, I did do some things very early. And then I was like, okay, is this all this is to this? Because again, if you're a high achiever, I can't see become addicted to it, but that's all you know, and you keep seeking it, you keep seeking
Right.
it, you keep seeking it. And you know, being content is kind of that is spiritual, that is biblical. All right,
Yep.
how to be content. But it's not like be content and not continue to grow. It's two different things.
Correct. Correct. I love it. You're such a jewel. Thank you so much, Monique, for joining me today. However, before we leave, I play a little game that's
Okay.
called What You Know. And that's a way for the listeners and myself to get to know the guests better. I'll ask you a few questions. They are multiple choice. And you choose the one that you feel like is the best one, okay?
Okay.
We'll do women in sports management, since we talked about that quite a bit. In July 2022, she was officially named president of the Las Vegas Raiders, becoming the first Black female president of an NFL team. Was it, or is it, Cynthia Marshall, Sandra Douglas Morgan, Caroline O'Connor, or Jane Kennedy?
I got a chance to meet her.
Who is it? Tell me who it is.
Morgan. It's Morgan.
Okay.
Yeah.
You met her. Oh, wow.
Yeah, she is so gracious. So gracious. Because one of her people on her staff had been on the podcast. I think her name is Bellet. And Tarana Bellet. She's also went to Hampton. And so she thinks she went there for a semester. So I got a chance. She introduced me to her boss. It was just great. Yeah. And yeah, I went to Latoya Story's Women in Power luncheon. And that's something I never would miss. And that's when I met her.
That's beautiful. I love that. She was said to be the reason the Dallas Mavericks eliminated their toxic culture in just 100 days. She was the CEO of the Mavericks and the first Black female CEO in the NBA, and was constantly improving the team's work environment. Is it, or was it, Nicole Lynn, Molly Fletcher, Cynthia Marshall, or Ann Deppner?
Cynthia Marshall.
Correct. Cynthia Marshall.
I read her book. I love it. I would really love to meet her in person. I did go to a Dallas Wings game, and I saw her from across the way, and I took a picture. I said, I finally see you, but not enough to really touch you.
And see, I sang the anthem for the Dallas Mavericks for 14 seasons, and my last year was 2020. I didn't get to meet her. I was like, oh man. So, whatever.
We should take a picture of yourself. Show a picture of yourself. Put it on social media and tag you. So I'm sorry I missed you.
Shoot, I'll probably send a video too of me singing.
There you go.
That's a good idea.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you, girl. Look, let me send you $25.
Why not? It's just the SID in me.
Yeah, I know. A pioneer and female agent, CNN dubbed her the female Jerry Maguire, and she represented over 300 athletes, including Hall of Fame pitcher John Smoltz and broadcaster Erin Andrews. Is it Serena Williams, Nicole Lynn, Edie Lawson Jackson, Samira Jackson, or Molly Fletcher?
I think it's Molly.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Molly Fletcher.
She's got several books.
Yeah, she's pretty something. She's pretty dope.
She's spoken at women leaders several times.
What was it again?
She has spoken at Women Leaders Conference several times. Women Leaders, it used to be called Women Leaders in College Sports. Now it's Women Leaders in Sports. I'm a former board member. But every October we have that convention and she speaks. So that's how I want to get her.
Gotcha. A highly successful NFL agent, she is the president of football operations for Clutch Sports Group and the first Black woman to represent an NFL draft pick. Is it Erin Andrews, Kelly Masters, Nicole Lynn, or Wilma Rudolph?
Oh, Lord.
I know.
It's Nicole. Now, I did meet her more than one time. And she's the reason why I started going to that football brunch because it was a player in my class who told me about her. I said, if my students know about this lady, I got to meet this lady.
But she's something else. She
Yes.
is so sure. I love her.
She got a book too.
Yeah. She is currently president of business operations for the Miami Marlins baseball team. Is it Caroline O'Connor, Venus Williams, Joanne Neal, or Kim Ning?
Last one, Kim.
Carolina O'Connor.
Oh, okay. No, I
Kim
didn't.
is a part. She is not the business operations, but I think Kim is the what is she over there? I forgot what she was, but she works for the Marlins too. Last one, she is the senior director of diversity, equity, and inclusion for the Minnesota Vikings, where she works every day to create a culture where everyone feels a sense of belonging. She is the first full-time person dedicated to diversity and inclusion, working for an NFL team. Is it Ann Deppner, Joanne Neal, Ronda Rousey, or Kelly Masters?
Now I gotta be honest with you. My expertise is athletic administration. I was doing good on the professional side.
Just take a guess.
I have no idea.
I'm gonna call the names again, and you just say one name. Ann Deppner, Joanne Neal, Ronda Rousey, or Kelly Masters?
B.
Joanne Neal. It's Ann Deppner.
Okay.
She's actually been on the show, and she is amazing. That's somebody. I mean, she's amazing. She's really, really good at what she does too.
I'll go and listen to that again.
Monique, thank you so much for joining me today. Tell the listeners how they can follow you on social media, how they can subscribe and get your magazine, and also how they can join Chat in the Garden with Monique A.J. Smith.
Well, I love to talk on LinkedIn. That's where I meet everybody.
That's your thing. Okay.
Yeah, so it's Monique A.J. Smith. And as it relates to, you can listen to the podcast by going to chatinagarden.com, and how you purchase. Now we do have some PDFs, so you can purchase from our store, but if you want to have a physical one, you can go to Amazon. And the name of the magazine is Significance in Athletics and Sports. The name of our store is seedsofempowermentstore.com. seedsofempowermentstore.com.
Gotcha. Thank you. And guys, you can follow me on She Say Sports on Facebook, She Say Sports 23 on Instagram, and please subscribe to our YouTube page, She Say Sports. Well, that's my show for today. Until next time, this is Sonia with She Say Sports.
She say sports. She say.